Imagine a realm where power, passion, and politics intertwine, a world veiled behind the walls of the Ottoman Empire's harem. This empire, renowned for its conquests and cultural splendor, held secrets and stories that shaped history. From the heights of glory to the depths of decline, the harem bore witness to the rise and fall of a dynasty. Journey into the heart of the Ottoman Empire and uncover the captivating saga of its harem, where influence and intrigue knew no bounds. The term harem originates from the Arabic word haram, meaning forbidden or sacred. It referred to the secluded quarters within the imperial palace, where the sultan's female family members, concubines, and female servants resided. The harem was established as an integral part of Ottoman court life, and its existence was rooted in both practicality and symbolism. At its core, the harem was designed to fulfill multiple functions. It served as a symbol of the sultan's wealth and power, a place of refuge for his female relatives, and a means of solidifying political alliances. Within the harem, a complex social hierarchy emerged. The harem's inhabitants were organized based on their relationship to the sultan and their status. At the top of this hierarchy were the valid sultan, the sultan's mother, and the sultan's chief consort, known as the Haseki Sultan. Below them were the concubines, who could rise in status if they bore sons for the sultan. The harem also housed a myriad of female servants, eunuchs, and other attendants who facilitated the smooth functioning of the establishment. Despite being confined to the harem, its inhabitants wielded significant political influence. The valid sultan, as the mother of the sultan, held a unique position of authority. She often acted as a power broker, using her influence to support or remove grand viziers and other officials. Additionally, concubines, who bore sons, gained a foothold in the empire's future leadership, as their sons could potentially ascend to the throne. This aspect of the harem led to fierce competition and manipulation among its residents. But behind the splendor of its majestic walls, the harem wasn't just a symbol of wealth and power, it was the very heartbeat of the empire. And if you think you know the story of the Ottoman Empire, think again. Ahead lies a world where even the smallest whispers could change the course of history. Stay with us and let's unveil the mysteries that the harem has safeguarded for centuries. The harem was not solely a center of politics. It was also a hub of cultural and artistic activity. Many women in the harem received education in various fields, including literature, music, and art. This education not only enriched the harem's environment, but also enabled its inhabitants to interact with the sultan on an intellectual level. Some women became patrons of the arts, commissioning beautiful works that reflected the harem's opulence. The harem's economic significance cannot be overlooked. As a microcosm of the empire, it required vast resources to maintain its opulent lifestyle. The harem was supported by revenues from various sources, including the Timar system, land grants, and taxes. The sultan's wealth and power were often displayed through the luxurious surroundings and extravagant gifts bestowed upon its inhabitants. The harem's intricate social hierarchy was a microcosm of Ottoman society, but its dynamics were further intensified by the high stakes of imperial politics. The valid sultan, often wielding more influence than the sultan himself, played a pivotal role in shaping the empire's course. Her decisions could determine the fate of grand viziers and ministers, as well as the sultan's own choices. The valid sultan's influence was so profound that she sometimes held the reins of power indirectly, making her an influential figure behind the throne. Concubines, too, were engaged in political maneuvering within the harem. Those who bore sons were positioned to secure their futures by ensuring the succession of their sons to the throne. This led to fierce rivalries between concubines and their supporters, as well as subtle alliances formed to advance their sons' claims. This competition occasionally spilled beyond the harem walls, contributing to larger court politics and even potential challenges to the reigning sultan. The harem's significance extended beyond the palace walls. Its inhabitants had the potential to become diplomatic pawns in forging alliances with other rulers. Marriages between Ottoman princesses and foreign rulers were strategic moves aimed at securing political stability and fostering cooperation. Such alliances were complex negotiations that often involved intricate discussions over dowries, terms of marriage, and future expectations. However, the harem's influence was not solely beneficial to the empire. The power struggles and internal divisions within the harem occasionally weakened the empire's stability. Rival factions within the harem could align themselves with particular officials or political groups, leading to factionalism and infighting that permeated Ottoman court politics. The manipulation of power within the harem sometimes contributed to larger societal unrest and the erosion of centralized authority. As the empire entered the 17th century, the harem's role in the Ottoman state began to shift. The decline of the central government's control and the rise of powerful local notables led to changes in the harem's dynamics. These notables, known as ayans, gained significant autonomy and influence in various regions of the empire. Consequently, their power extended to the harem, shaping its internal politics and relationships. The economic challenges faced by the Ottoman Empire had a profound impact on the harem's functioning. Financial difficulties began to plague the empire in the late 16th century, triggered in part by the closure of traditional trade routes through the Middle East by European powers. This disruption led to a decline in the prosperity of the Middle Eastern provinces, affecting the financial resources available to support the harem and the state. Further damage was done to the Ottoman economy by inflation. The movement of precious metals from the Americas into Europe and the ensuing imbalance in commerce between East and West both contributed to the volatility of the economy. It was a constant struggle for the Ottoman administration to keep its revenue streams stable and fulfill its financial obligations. This significant financial burden had a domino effect, permeating all levels of society, including the harem, and causing widespread disruption. The harem's capacity to serve as a symbol of grandeur and prosperity gradually waned during the empire's rule, reflecting the economy's worsening conditions. Alterations to Ottoman society's cultural norms were another factor that went towards determining the harem's eventual demise. The introduction of Western ideas and culture into the empire, particularly during the 18th century, resulted in significant shifts in ways of life, fashion, and styles of thought. Some of the elites of the Ottoman Empire embraced Western culture, taking on European manners, dress, and even architectural styles. This cultural interaction, on the other hand, was responsible for the dissemination of novel ideas and conceptions that posed a threat to established protocols and customs. The ideas of the Enlightenment originated in Europe and extended throughout the world, sparking debates about politics, society, and individual rights. Even while these concepts did not instantly permeate the heart of Ottoman culture, they did help some Ottoman intellectuals experience a sense of intellectual awakening. These new ways of thought influenced debates about governance, reform, and the role of institutions like the harem as the empire was confronted with both internal and external problems. Sultan Selim Itay, who reigned from 1789 through 1807, is credited with leading one of the most major reform attempts during this period. Recognizing the importance of modernization, Selim made efforts to develop a new army modeled after those in Europe and to overhaul the administrative structure of the country. On the other hand, these attempts ran into resistance from traditionalist forces, like the Janissaries, who viewed the changes as a danger to the privileges they had previously enjoyed. The pushback against reform brought to light the deeply ingrained aversion to change that existed within Ottoman society. This resistance extended to the harem and the power relationships that existed inside it. The Ottoman Empire's military power had been a cornerstone of its dominance for centuries. However, by the late 17th century, cracks in its military might begin to appear. The defeat at the Battle of Vienna in 1683 against the Holy League, an alliance of European powers, marked a turning point. The empire faced growing challenges from its European rivals, particularly Austria and Russia. As a result, the Ottomans were gradually forced to cede territories in wars and treaties, leading to a shrinking empire. One of the critical consequences of these military defeats was the weakening of the Ottoman central government's control over its provinces. Autonomous notables and local rulers emerged in southeastern Europe, Anatolia, and Arab provinces. These regional power players often exerted control over significant portions of the empire, creating a situation akin to European feudalism. This further eroded the central government's authority and disrupted the traditional power dynamics, including those within the harem. The Eastern Question, a term coined during this period, referred to the diplomatic and political challenges posed by the declining Ottoman Empire in Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and the Middle East. European powers, particularly Britain, France, and Russia, were increasingly interested in the fate of the empire's territories and peoples. This interest was fueled by the desire to protect their own interests, gain influence, and prevent the emergence of a dominant power in the region. The Ottoman Empire found itself caught in the crosshairs of these European rivalries. The empire's decline had created a power vacuum, and European powers sought to fill it. Russia's expansionist ambitions and strategic objectives were particularly significant, as it aimed to secure control over the Bosporus and the Dardanelles, key waterways that connected the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. This would provide Russia with access to warm water ports and enable it to project power into the heart of the Ottoman Empire. As European powers jockeyed for influence and territorial gains, The Ottomans faced a complex web of challenges on multiple fronts. Wars with Russia and Austria, such as the Russo-Turkish War of 1768–74 and the Austro-Turkish War of 1787–92, resulted in territorial losses and increased European intervention in Ottoman affairs. These conflicts had significant implications for the harem, as the empire's focus shifted from internal matters to external threats. Amidst military defeats and the complex geopolitical landscape of the Eastern Question, the empire recognized the need for change both within its institutions and the harem. The 18th century marked a significant turning point as the Ottoman Empire grappled with internal decay and external pressures. Sultan Selim I Ifrul (1789–1807) stands out as a notable figure who sought to modernize the empire's institutions, including its military and administrative apparatus, to regain its former glory. Selim's reign witnessed the emergence of critical reform initiatives, reflecting an understanding of the need to adapt to the changing world. One of the primary focuses of Selim II's reform efforts was the modernization of the Ottoman military. Recognizing the limitations of the traditional Janissary Corps and other older military formations, Selim I introduced a new European-style army known as the Nizam-i-Seated, or the New Order. This new force was equipped with modern weapons and trained in European tactics. It was a departure from the conventional Ottoman military structure and aimed to counter the empire's military decline. European officers and experts were brought in to oversee the training of the Nizam-i-Seated, representing a crucial infusion of outside knowledge and expertise. However, Selim I faced significant resistance from the Janissaries and other traditional military groups. These established corps viewed the reforms as a threat to their privileges and security, which led to opposition to Selim's efforts. Despite the challenges, the Nizam-i-Seated represented an early attempt to modernize the Ottoman military and adapt it to the changing warfare tactics of the era. Beyond military reforms, Selim I's vision extended to broader administrative and societal changes. Efforts were made to rationalize the Ottoman administrative machinery, albeit along traditional lines. The empire recognized the importance of adapting to new circumstances while retaining the core elements of its identity. Amid these reforms, the harem also experienced some transformations, albeit limited in scope. The harem, as a symbol of power and influence, was not immune to the changes sweeping the empire. Selim I's reign witnessed the rise of a new treasury, the I-Seated, specifically designed to finance the Nizam-i-Seated. This financial structure had implications for the harem, as some Taimars were confiscated and reassigned to fund the modernization efforts. The relationship between the harem and the state's financial mechanisms was thus influenced by the changing priorities of the empire. While Selim I's reforms showed promise, they also faced challenges on multiple fronts. The rise of powerful autonomous notables in various provinces, as well as the rise of nationalism among Ottoman subject peoples, complicated the reform process. These factors contributed to a conservative resurgence and opposition to the reforms. Additionally, the geopolitical landscape remained uncertain, with European powers vying for influence in the empire's affairs. The Ottoman harem, once a symbol of power and influence, played a multifaceted role in the empire's history. It served as a political tool, a source of intrigue, and a center of cultural and social activities. The women within the harem exerted influence that extended far beyond its walls, shaping the course of the empire through their interactions with the sultans, court officials, and foreign dignitaries. The harem's evolution was closely intertwined with the broader trajectory of the Ottoman Empire. During its heyday, the harem was a center of power and political maneuvering, allowing women to accumulate wealth, connections, and influence. However, as the empire faced internal challenges and external pressures, the harem's role and significance transformed. The decline of the Ottoman Empire was reflected in the diminishing influence of the harem, as the sultans became less able to exert control over their domain. The decline of the Ottoman Empire and the harem was marked by various internal and external factors. The empire's political fragmentation, economic difficulties, and military defeats eroded its once powerful foundations. Efforts to reform the military and administrative systems, including the establishment of the Nizam-i-Seated, showcased the empire's recognition of the need to adapt to changing circumstances. However, these reforms were met with resistance from entrenched interests, ultimately reflecting the challenges of bringing about lasting change. Sultan Selim I's ambitious reform initiatives, particularly those aimed at modernizing the military, offer a glimpse into the empire's attempt to reverse its decline. The introduction of European-style training and weaponry represented a significant departure from traditional Ottoman military practices. While the reforms faced opposition from existing military formations, They signaled a willingness to embrace new ideas and techniques. In the context of the harem, the reforms introduced during Selim Iqsi's reign were emblematic of broader efforts to adapt to a changing world. The restructuring of financial mechanisms and the reassignment of Timars reflected the shifting priorities of the empire and its recognition of the need for modernization. The legacy of the Ottoman harem extends beyond its confines. It serves as a microcosm of the empire's complex history, its rise, its splendor, its decline, and its struggle to adapt to new challenges. The harem's transformation mirrored the changing dynamics of the empire, illustrating the interconnectedness of its various elements.